New Clairo album, Charm. I am a huge Sling fan. Sling is one of my favorite albums of the 2020s so far. I thought that record was great. I know a lot of people, they were fans of Immunity, wanted her to go back to that Rostam sort of sound. I think that this is a little bit more, from what I've heard, like kind of a blend of that. Sexy to Someone was kind of like an old Clairo song, but with like a Sling sort of production style. If you're watching this over on YouTube, full unedited VOD will be on my Patreon. Also subscribe, like the video, all of that fun stuff. Let's get into the album though. Let's do it. Second single, Nomad, kicking off the record. This felt like an intro when I heard it, so it makes sense, I guess.
I'd run the risk of losing everything.
You guys hear how live the production sounds? It feels like all these instruments were recorded in one room. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know, but I love that angle. So pretty. Seems like the lush instrumentation of Sling, but with the vocal processing of Immunity, for sure. Also, like the songwriting style, I feel like is a little bit more a blend of the two, you know? This guitar part is just gorgeous. Also, just the upright bass. Clairo has such a beautiful, airy quality to her performances vocally. It's like airy without being whispery, you know? It's so pretty. Ooh, that felt like a not semi-transition, you know, that felt smooth. All right, Sexy to Someone. I love those sparse, these little like woodwind parts and those little like piano walk downs just kind of come in every once in a while. It's not constant, but it adds so much to it. The hookiness of this is what reminds me of Immunity. Like, yeah, the mixing is incredible. Leon Michaels, dude, the production is just killer from Leon here. And like, yeah, obviously did Moonlight, Kaliuchis, one of my favorite Kaliuchis songs, Ultraviolence. I think he's done some like hip hop sort of stuff too. Like, I think he did the Carters, or did some songs off of the Carters. My favorite of those two singles was Nomad. Sexy to Someone is such a bop as well, though. I love that song. It's definitely a little bit more hookier. That one's definitely more for the Immunity fans, I feel like. But it has that like beautiful live instrumentation and just like, oh my God. The rest of the album's all new songs. Starting with Second Nature. The groove, this has got some stank on it. A little Beatles coded. So was a lot of Sling. You can tell Clairo's got some Beatles influence. Yeah, I'm loving the keys. Whoa. The organ? The groove. Wow. So funky, like weird. Yeah, I love that Clairo's using these weird moments to like bring in these different instruments that weren't in the rest of the song really at all, which I think is so cool. It's a call for attention to detail for sure. But those driving keys were just so nice. Wait, this piano's so pretty. From the piano here, incredible. Oh my God, I love her use of the woodwinds here. Like, where does this come from? The analog synth is so fucking weird. Yeah, again, I am obsessed with the production on here. Like, Clairo is not one of those artists that is going to overdo it vocally, even though Clairo can obviously sing. But it really feels like the highlights here are how interesting the instrumentation is and how different it is from, like, the different sections of the song. And, like, bringing in the woodwinds and, like, the analog synths and stuff like that is really cool. There's no lines that are, like, really jumping out to me or was like, oh my god, you snapped there, but really pleasant, really great at painting a picture, like I feel like Clairo always has been. So
Sometimes I wonder if you were the one when
this album is so loungy so far. I love it.
I really hate to admit it. I put my
Ooh.
pride on the line. Sometimes I want somebody to see me.
Love little snare crack to bring it back in.
To drink it all up, the feeling is the manic.
Oh, these little walk-ups.
You, I knew it. All because of you.
The pacing changes in these bridges is such like an interesting choice. Something that needs to be said, okay? I know it's obvious, right? But she called the album Charm. I have to. It's a charming record. It's sweet, really packed with detail, but it's really like unassuming. You know what I mean? It's not crying out for attention. It's a very loungy album, but it is just such a charming record. It feels like I'm listening to this album in a room, like. You know, this feels like a living room sort of album. And even like the lyrics are like it's a very cutesy way to put what she's trying to say here. I thank you for your time. I knew this the moment I met you that I'd thank you for your time. It's kind of a brutal way to put that, but it's so cutesy in the wording of it. These drum fills. Oh, it's jazzy.
We can go where whatever you want. I don't care.
Ooh, the piano. We're not fucking around here. Very antique shop radio for sure.
And shy away. Now I find
Oh, oh.
I guess that I don't cry.
I forgot that this was Clairo's album for a second. Hold on. This bass part's great too. That was the jazziest track yet. That almost didn't even feel like a Clairo song. Like the vocals were so sparse. Like what was there? Like 2 verses and kind of like a little outro, some oohs and ahs. That kind of just felt like a vessel for that piano part, you know? It does have like an overarching like sort of 60s vibe to it. This album does. It does feel like very vintage vinyl crackle fireplace on sort of record. I feel like I'm in a cabin. Yeah, really, really pretty. Very, very jazzy. That might be the most jazzy Clairo song I've heard. Oh.
But I think again. I don't even try.
Whoa.
And I just might know you too.
Oh, that chord. Whoa. The music theory nerd in me is going crazy with this one. There's something kind of crunchy about this one. I love it. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's some punchiness, there's some distortion to it. Wow. Yeah, the production's just so stellar. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, just the arrangement there was crazy. I think so far throughout this album, I will say, vocally, like the melodies are starting to feel a little recycled after a certain point. Like, it's not really sticking out to me. There's less and less choruses that are really sticking out because it does kind of feel a little samey, vocally and melodically. But the instrumentation and like the production is doing so much that it still like works and it still feels entertaining, and I'm not like bored by it, you know? I think it would be a little nice if we had a little bit more, like some more moments where Clairo as an artist, like as a vocalist, as a songwriter, is shining through a little bit more, because it does feel like it's taking a little bit of a backseat to how like sprawling and like crazy the production is. Okay. Yeah, this is like Sexy to Someone part 2. Oh, this is what I was talking about. Ooh. Ooh. Add Up My Love. Honey, was it ever enough? Oh, this is a vindictive song. Funny what I said after the last song ended. She just kind of gave me immediately that was a little bit more like melodically focused, that was a little bit more personal, as like from a songwriting perspective, very like vindictive track of like I bet you regret, I bet you miss me. It's another solid cut. I think it is kind of like, all right, Echo. I think they could have buried this like sine wave synth part like a little bit more. It's like so in your face. Low-key Halloweeny. Yeah, there is something spooky about this song. Eerie is the word I'm looking for. This song's kind of eerie now. That's a weird one. That's a weird one from Clairo. It really is kind of like this spooky gothic, really interesting one. But I will say what I said earlier came back to be true here, where it feels like Clairo herself is really taking a backseat to these instrumentals. Like the most interesting part about this entire album, because it is so interesting and it is so sprawling and it is so expansive and detailed in the production. And I don't think as much effort that they could have made in terms of like the lyricism and just highlighting Clairo. I don't know. Maybe that was on purpose, but it's starting to feel less like a Clairo album as we go on. But, you know, it's still really, really beautiful.
I can feel there's something in the between. It's it, paper and pen, sweeping. And if you need to disappear.
Oh, that was so quick. I don't really much commentary on that one. That was nice.
And wonder why no one knew you at all. And close is not close enough. Playing out moments when there was a touch.
Wow.
With strangers touching everywhere. You wonder if he knows she's gonna run. I know I've shot some and clutch.
Wow, that was really real. That was really touching. What really sticks out to me here with this last track with Pier 4 is that that song was one of the only kind of breathtaking moments of the album, and it's one of the few songs that I felt like was songwriting focused, or that the production and everything else that goes on with making a song or making a record was there to aid the songwriting and highlight that, you know. That was the most blouse song on the album. I'm not necessarily saying that Clairo needs to write about these like really heavy, deep issues to draw interest or to like really make a brilliant song, but I think my issue overall with this album that I've kind of said throughout us listening to it is that as crazy and amazing as the production is, and I love how this album is produced, it is both like jazzy and psychedelic and groovy and like sounds vintage and old and live and warm, and it's like there's a lot to love about the instrumentation here. It feels so expansive and like big and like detailed, and I really love how this album was produced. I think unfortunately, as somebody that's a fan of Clairo's songwriting and a fan of Clairo, I think I felt like there wasn't enough Clairo on this album, or at least there wasn't enough highlighting one of the things that I love so much about Clairo that I feel like is really highlighted in Sling is her songwriting and her voice, not like necessarily vocally, but her like narrative voice. And I just don't feel like there was as much storytelling or songwriting or personal stuff on this album that I've grown to expect from Clairo from her last record and even Immunity. And it just kind of feels like this is like, instead of like the production being a vessel for Clairo's songs, it felt like Clairo's songs were just a vessel for the production to go crazy, which it did, which I love. But I think that's kind of why I don't like this album as much as I liked Sling. And I love Sling. So that's not me shading this album too much. I think the production's crazy. I think the music theory nerds are going to love it. I think the folk fans are going to love it. I think like the people who love like a loungy record like a Norah Jones are going to like this album. And I like all of those things. So I do like this record. I just think from a Clairo fan perspective, it felt like there wasn't as much Clairo as I would have liked on the album, you know? But I still really like it. I still think it's a good outing from her. Let's be real. She was recycling melodies all over this album. And I think it's because she was mostly sticking to that really safe range, which Clairo's done in the past, but I felt like she's done more with it in the past. Still really like it. I just, you know, I hold Clairo to a very high standard, you know? And I complimented this album nonstop as we listened to it, but comparing it to Clairo's best, Sling, I still think Sling's her best album. And I think this is cool. I'm going to give some more time and listen to it, but yeah, that's the way I feel about it right now.